Well, it's that time of year again when the grass is too high for you to ignore and you go out and start your mower and she won't stay cranked. Well, we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas, so the first place we got to look is to clean the carburetor bowl. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take the carburetor off our Cub Cadet LT1046 model and we're going to clean the bowl. Alright, here are the tools you're going to need to finish this job. A pair of needle nose pliers, a regular pair will do, but I'm using a long pair. A socket wrench. We have a deep 10mm socket, a 8mm socket, an extension. Doesn't have to be very long. 10mm wrench. This is a ratcheting wrench, but a regular wrench will do. A wire brush. You absolutely need a Phillips head screwdriver. We have another one over here, a longer one, and we have a little flat head here to help with hose clamps, but you just absolutely need the one Phillips head screw. You'll absolutely need carb cleaner. That is a must. You will probably need a penetrating oil. I recommend PB Blaster. It's the best to get old bolts and screws out. I recommend you get a magnetic parts tray so you can hold all your bolts in there without losing them in the grass. And you'll need towels, paper towels or an old rag. Let's get into it. I've already got the hood open here. So what you want to do is down here in this bracket, you want to pull that forward till it comes into that opening, and then from there just pull it back and it'll just pop right off. Okay, first thing we want to do is we want to open up this cover right here and remove our air filter. So you just open the cover and you have to pop this little hanger out from underneath these two tabs, and you just pull on that and out she comes. And then we'll come over here to the side with the brake and the throttle, and we'll take our 8mm socket, and we're going to take this bolt off right here because we have to take this cover off to get to the carb. Okay, now we're on the other side of the mower, and we got this little bracket right here. We're going to bend this out so we can remove the cables and the fuel line there, and we have another 8mm bolt, so we'll take that out. Alright, we're still on this same side with the fuel line, so we're going to take out this bolt and this bolt. We're going to take our little fuel pump here off. Alternatively, you can leave this on, but it just makes things a lot easier with taking this cover off. Alright, we've got the bolts removed now. We can just pull this back and let it hang. Alright, so now we'll come to the front of the mower, and we have two bolts holding the front of the cover in. These are 10mm bolts, and so we'll use our 10mm ratchet right here and get them out. Alright, we've got all of our bolts out, so we are ready to take this front cover off, top cover. So what we're going to do next is we're going to have to take this air box off, and to do that, there are two nuts in these holes. They are 10mm nuts. This is where we're going to use our deep socket and our extension. Mine, when I was taking it apart, had a sticker over this hole, I assume for warranty purposes, when it was new, so I didn't quite understand how to get this off. But if there's not a hole here, there might be just a black sticker and it blends in very well. I had no idea, so check that. So just put your socket down in there and take it out. Alright, so to get the air box off, we also want to remove this hose right here, and this has a little spring clamp on it. So what we want to do is get those little tabs in between our pliers, just squeeze them, and it'll pop right off. Now we got our nuts out and our little hose. This just comes up, pulls out, and here is our carburetor. So we want to take our Phillips head screwdriver and we're going to take out this little ground wire here. Alright, we got that screw out. We also want to take this wire here and pull that out for our fuel solenoid. And we also have this little fuel line here with another little spring clamp. So just take your pliers, pull down on that, and just wiggle that hose off. There you go. Alright, to take the carburetor off, we're going to have to remove this linkage here and this linkage here and this little spring along with it. And the easiest way to do that is to slide the carburetor off the studs here. Now you're going to have to be careful with this because you don't want to force it and stretch anything or break anything. Alright, so we got our carburetor off, and to remove our linkages we just have to orient the carburetor where the little hooks will come out. That one kind of fell out because I was messing with it. Alright, and this one's got a little clip in there. We just pull them out. There we go. Takes a little bit of effort. So, we have finally got our carburetor out and we can go clean it. Congratulations. Alright, so we've got our carburetor off and we can go ahead and start cleaning it. Let's go ahead and clean the outside. I've got some carburetor cleaner here, gunk, so we can clean the outside. Let's go ahead. Cleaned a little bit of it off. Oops. Oh, man. Sprayed most of it off. Just the aerosol. Go ahead. That looks pretty good. Go ahead. Start cleaning that. Alright, we got a lot of the dirt off now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the bowl off, which is this part right here. To do that, we've got 4 screws in the corners. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're just regular Phillips head screws. Now, they may be in there pretty good because some of them are through holes. The dirt and rust will get up in this top part here and make it stuck there as well as here. So go ahead and get you some PB Blaster. I like it for penetrating oil, and spray right here and on the parts where the bolt goes through the top part, and let that sit a few minutes because you can strip these out. Alright, so we got our carburetor bowl off. You can see inside it's pretty nasty. We got little bits of dirt and solidified ethanol. That's what happens when you let gas sit up in your carb for too long. So what we're going to do is we're going to spray some carb cleaner in here along the sides here. We're going to let this sit in here, but we're going to wipe this off. That way it doesn't damage that seal. And we're also going to take our float off and clean on this top part here. It's got a little bit of corrosion. We're not going to take the jet out because it looks pretty clean. I sprayed a little bit of carb cleaner in there, clean this up. So let's go ahead, take this off. It's just a simple Phillips head screw. Try not to drop this needle, or the pin, I mean, because you'll never find it in the dirt. Just take that out. And spray a little bit. Try not to go crazy with it. that sit. Take our bowl here. Spray a little bit of that. It's already coming loose. Spray on the seal here, just try to get it out, and then we'll take a towel and wipe that seal down. Try to save this because it's still a good seal. It's not broke or anything or rotten. Try to get as much dirt off as we can. Alright, so I'm just going to spray some more in here. We'll let it sit for a little while. Try not to spray this in my face. Spray on the outside here too, get a little bit of that. Spray in the top again. Spray a little bit in our jet. Spray in our fuel line. And we'll let that set, come back to it. Now get a little bit of the gunk off. Okay, we've got our carburetor here. Most of the liquid has dried up. We still have some deposits left over, but it's loosened it up pretty good. So we'll just take our brush here. Let's see if I can use that in. Yeah, that's coming out pretty good. So clean this top part too. And when you're doing this, try not to get any of this carb cleaner on your gaskets. Just try to preserve those as best you can. But yeah, let's take it over the old air compressor and blow her out. Alright, we got our bowl pretty well clean. We're going to blow it out with the air compressor, get some more of the finer particles. Just a point to make is when you're cleaning, make sure you clean your plates here. Make sure they're nice and clean. Just spray a little bit of air in here while we're at it. Alright. We'll open that. Alright. I think we should be finally good on cleaning. So let's get back to reassembling. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our float back in. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our float, make sure you don't drop the needle off. Take your pin, just goes right back in there. Alright, and in this carburetor, it just sits right there. Make sure your needle goes into the fuel line hole right there, and that just sits right in those grooves. Make sure that gets down in there. Make sure it's straight. Alright, and then we want to put our small little Phillips head screw back in there. Alright, and that'll hold, float down, make sure it has enough leeway on there. And now we can put the bowl back on here, and it's made in such a way it's not very hard to orient, but the little dip right there goes next to the fuel line connector, just for reference sake. And we can put our 4 screws back in there. Alright, we've got our bowl tightened back on there. You want to make sure that these screws are pretty good and tight. That way there's no flex in between the bowl and the rest of the carburetor. Don't try to over torque these because you will strip out the heads. So if you feel your screwdriver starting to slip, just let it alone if it's not super loose or anything. But we are ready to put this bad boy back on the lawnmower. Alright, so we're ready to put the carburetor back on, and we're going to orient this so the small plate connects to the engine. Our big plate is going to go towards the front of the mower. So what we're going to do first is we're going to have to put our linkages back on. So I'm going to start with the rear linkage, which has the spring on it. So that will go on the rear connector here. And you just basically have to finagle with it and orient the carburetor with the shape of the hook. Get it. There we go. And now we have to put our little spring in. Just draw that up. There we go. And make sure that the hook end is on the inside of this connector here when you do the spring. Now we're going to do the choke linkage. And again, just, this one's pretty easy. Just orient with the shape there. And now we're ready to put it on the studs. Yeah. Oh man, these things are tricky. Just be careful. Apply a little bit of force, but don't go crazy with it. Don't be too rash. Just take your time. Just slide back on there. Make sure that's pressed firmly on there. So next we're going to take our small little Phillips head screw and put this grounding wire back on here. You may want to clean under there. We'll hook up our fuel solenoid wire. It just pops right back in there. Okay, next we're going to reconnect our fuel line to our connector here. Again, we just have this spring clamp. So you just take your pliers, pull that bit a little bit, just pull it over the little nipple here. There we go. Make sure that spring clamps all the way to the top. Now we can finally put our air box back on. That just slips over these two studs, these two holes right here. Just slip over these two studs. So just put it back, and you can see from the back here where they line up, so you can see when you're looking this way. So just pull that back, and that just slides over that. Okay, so we can go ahead, tighten this up by putting our two nuts back in our holes. So you want to take your 10mm wrench with the extension, just take it and put your nut right in the tip of your socket there, and just feed that in there over this stud in here. Do it again for the other hole. Just put it in the tip there, feed it through over the stud. Nice and tight. Make sure there's no play in your box. And we want to reconnect this hose right here to this connector on our air box. So just get the pliers, open that spring clamp up, and just slide it over there. Alright, we got our cover back on, so we're going to take our 10mm bolts and put them in the front here. Pilot them in there with our hands. Now you may have to align this cover to go with the holes in the air box for them to line up well. Alright, now we want to take our 8mm socket and our 8mm bolt, and we want to thread it through this hole next to the oil dipstick on the right side of the mower. Now there's a hole behind this hole, so make sure that thread's in there. Again, you may have to align these two holes. Okay, now we're on the other side. We want to put this other cover hole on there, and we have our little bracket right here. I'm going to put that bolt through that bracket and into the hole. Alright, make sure that bracket's reasonably straight. Put your fuel line and your cables back in there. Bend that up. Alright, last two bolts to put in for our fuel pump. We're going to take our 10mm socket and bolts, line up the holes. Just start that one, then take our other one and line this bottom hole up. Make sure you don't pop any of the hoses off, and just tighten those down. Okay, just go ahead and put your filter back in. Close that, put your hood back on, and you just have to slip it down into the bracket and make sure that top bolt, when you pull it back, the hood back, it falls into that groove right there. Pretty easy. So you're gonna have to crank it over a little bit to get the fuel to go in there. You might want to put some starting fluid in there, or put a little bit of gas down the neck, because that's a vacuum assisted fuel pump. So if you can get it to start, you can get it to draw more fuel in. But we've already done that, so you just start it like normal, pull your choke, full throttle, and just give her a go. So let's see how she does. Well, she sounds pretty good. We got her all fixed up now. Just go ahead and drive around the yard a couple times, get the fuel flowing through there, get everything nice and lubricated. Finally mow your lawn. Well, if you found this tutorial helpful and you like these videos, go ahead and leave us a comment what you thought. Trying out some new things with filming our setups and how we do things. If you like this video, give us a like, subscribe. That shows me you want to see more of these videos, and if this was helpful, I'm real glad. I'll see you next time on the next jalopy.